from Ukraine. Russia's continuing to attempt attacks on Kharkiv, Ukraine's second. On Sunday, 7 people died in drone strikes that hit residential areas. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president warned Ukraine out of air defense missiles.
Сьогоднішня інтенсивність росіян достатньо висока.
The current intensity of Russia is quite high. As of today, we have a reserve of air defense missiles, but I believe we need to think about tomorrow. The intensity could stay the same, and then we wouldn't have enough. If they keep hitting Ukraine, we did the way they have.
Zelensky's comments come as Republican Washington remain deeply divided. During an interview on CNBC, Yellen refused to rule out tariffs on Chinese grain exports as China ramps up production of solar power technology, electric vehicles, and lithium batteries. Mexico's cut diplomatic ties with Ecuador and withdrew its embassy personnel from Quito after Ecuadorian police and military forces raided the Mexican embassy Friday to arrest former Ecuadorian Vice President Jorge Glass, who had taken refuge there for months. Mexico granted asylum protections just hours before dozens of police and military forces stormed the Mexican embassy. Glass served under former leftist Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa. Glass was being investigated for corruption and was previously convicted on graft charges, which he and allies had. Was the key to spark condemnation across Latin America. Rwanda as a genocide. One State Department document read, "Be careful. Genocide finding could commit the U.S. government to actually do something," unquote. Israeli President Isaac Herzog traveled to Rwanda for the 30-year commemoration where he met with President Kagame. Kagame has been president since 2000 and has led a harsh crackdown on the press. He's He's also accused of fueling deadly violence in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Donald Trump pulled in $50 million at a campaign fundraiser hosted by the billionaire hedge fund investor Ron Paul. At the fundraising dinner in Florida, Trump told supporters he would extend his 2017 tax Trump's legal team may have violated ethics rules by not telling an appellate court that a billionaire financier had agreed to help Trump post the third $464 million bond set by the court in a civil fraud case. Despite the offer from billionaire John Hanke, Trump's lawyers told the court it was a practical impossibility to pay the original bond, which was then lowered to $175 million. In Vermont, a man had been arrested over suspected act of arson on a security service office in Berlin. A 4B6 security footage captured the suspect spraying what appeared to be accelerant outside the office door Friday morning. A motive has not been identified. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating after the engine cover on Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800 plane fell off during takeoff, striking the wing flap. The aircraft to return to Denver's International Airport. It's the latest high-profile incident on a Boeing aircraft as the leader company comes under mounting scrutiny for its safety failures. And millions of people across the United States will be donning protective glasses this afternoon to witness a much-anticipated solar eclipse. In New York, Sullivan County, 6 prisoners at the BlueBird Correctional Facility will be among those gathering outside to view the rare event. After winning a lawsuit that argued forcing them to remain indoors was a violation of their religious beliefs. The prison has issued a lockdown during the time of the eclipse, which will peak in New York around 3:25 p.m. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now! Democracy Now! With the War and Peace Report. Coming up, Palestinians in Gaza have been making their way into Khan Yunis today, a day after Israeli forces announced they are withdrawing. We will speak with Dr. Mustafa Barghouti in a minute.
There's a toilet on the roof in the sky, stalker. Wild enemies, falls in the sky, stalker. We're burning down in flames in the sky, stalker. We're sucked in this game in the sky, stalker. We believe in fear, we're too, we're here, we love, we hate, we kill, we break, we occupy, we destroy, we heal in the sky. Stay, stay. We're a soldier and a child in the sky, stalker.
The Skies Don't Care by Rasha Nahas. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Palestinians in Gaza have been making their way into Khan Yunis today, a day after the Israeli military announced it had withdrawn its ground troops from the area. Israel first invaded Khan Yunis, Gaza's second largest city, in December. 4 months later, the city is almost unrecognizable. Scores of buildings are destroyed or damaged. Streets have been bulldozed. Piles of rubble have replaced where schools and shops once stood. The withdrawal brought Israeli troop levels in Gaza to one of the lowest since the war began. Yet Israel is still vowing to invade Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city, which is sheltering some 1.4 million people, more than half of Gaza's population. Meanwhile, talks over a ceasefire and the release of hostages are continuing in Cairo, but there are conflicting reports on how much progress has been made. This all comes as Israel's war on Gaza hit the 6-month mark on Sunday, a grim milestone. Over 33,100 Palestinians have been killed, including over 14,000 children. Nearly 76,000 people have been injured. Tens of thousands are missing. About 1.7 million people have been displaced. The Nations is warning that famine is imminent. To mark the 6 months of the war, World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus wrote on social media platform X, quote, "The deaths and grievous injuries of thousands of children in Gaza will remain a stain on all of humanity. This assault on present and future generations must end. The denial of basic needs, food, fuel, sanitation, shelter, security, and healthcare is inhumane and intolerable," he wrote. Meanwhile, the International Court of Justice began 2 days of hearings today to consider Nicaragua's request that emergency measures be imposed on Germany over its support for Israel's war on Gaza. Nicaragua is accusing Germany of facilitating the commission of genocide in Gaza. For more, we're joined by 2 guests. Mohammed Shahada is with us, a writer and analyst from Gaza, chief communications at Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor, columnist at the Forward newspaper, a Jewish weekly in New York. He's joining us from Copenhagen. And joining us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti. He's a Palestinian physician, activist, and politician who serves as General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Dr. Barghouti, we want to start with you in Ramallah. Can you explain what you understand has happened in Gaza at this point, the 6-month mark, and also the significance of Israeli troops pulling out of southern Gaza, but saying they are doing that in preparation for an assault on Rafah?
Well, I think you have a combination of 2 factors here. The first one is that Israel has created a terrible devastation of all of Gaza Strip. We thought that the destruction in the north of Gaza and in Gaza City was the biggest, but now we discover that the destruction they've caused in Khan Yunis is even bigger. Probably more than 80% of all homes and houses have been destroyed, partially or completely. They are trying to make Gaza uninhabitable. They've destroyed totally the infrastructure. More than 405 schools and universities have been destroyed. 33 hospitals out of 36 have been completely damaged. And they've been killing people around the clock. We are talking in 6 months, actually, the number of people killed is no less than 40,000 people. If we include 7,000 who are still missing and who have no chance of being alive. In addition to, as you said, to more than 76,000 people, to make it clear to people, this is more than 5% of the population of Gaza Strip. And if that had happened proportionally in the United States of America, we'd be talking about more than 12 million people killed or injured in 6 months. It's a horrible devastation. I mean, the suffering of children in particular it breaks my heart. When you know that 1,000 children have lost their limbs, as one child asked his father, he's 5 years old, and he lost both of his hands, and he was asking his father, "Father, will my hands grow again when I grow up?" This is the kind of severity of what's happening there. But that's one side of the issue. The other side of the issue is that Israel has failed drastically in achieving any of their goals. Their main goal was ethnic cleansing of Gaza. The heroic Palestinian population remained in Gaza, not leave. 700,000 people still are in Gaza City and in the north, regardless of the bombardment, of the killing, of everything. And people do not want to leave the homeland again, as has happened in 1948. But also Israel has failed in destroying the resistance. They have failed in bringing the Israeli prisoners by force, and they have failed to impose their control in the area. And that's why practically, wherever their tanks remain, they are subjected to also resistance from the Palestinian side. That's why they are withdrawing, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come back. The risk of what they are doing is that they're taking back their tanks and their infantry, and allowing the airstrikes to continue in the most possible severe way, which is very devastating because people in Gaza have nothing to defend themselves with against the airstrikes. Also, it is clear that Netanyahu is maneuvering. He's pressured severely by the whole world now to stop this terrible genocide, but he wants to continue because his own political survival depends on the continuation of this war. He knows very well that once the war stops, he will be investigated for his failure on the 7th of October, his failure in this war, and he will be, of course, tried for 4 cases of corruption, each of which could take him to prison. So he wants even to expand the war if he can. But the reality is that Israel is killing Palestinians now in 3 ways. It is killing Palestinians with bombardment. They've used more than 70,000 tons of explosives. By the way, about 30,000 of that was given by the United States of America. It is like 30 kilograms of explosives for each man, woman, and child in Gaza. It is more than double the explosive power of the 2 nuclear bombs that were thrown on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the Second World War. But that's not all. They use bombardment to kill people. They use hunger to kill people. We have 700,000 people practically starving in the north of Gaza. And they use diseases. We have 35 medical teams from Palestinian Medical Relief Society working now in Gaza. And they report to us that about 1 million people in Gaza today are sick with different diseases, skin diseases, infections. And there are certain epidemics that already started. We have an outbreak of infectious hepatitis. We anticipate more outbreaks of epidemics because children have not received vaccination for more than 184 days. It's a devastating situation, but that's why the whole world must stand up now with Palestinians and tell Israel enough is enough.